Welcome you live into Reser Stadium where Oregon State upset Oregon 38-34. Brenden Slaughter, Keenan Puncocher here for BeaversEdge.com. We just got done with the longest press conference that Oregon State's had in some time, as the vibes are really high around here as the Beavers engineered one of the most incredible comebacks that you will ever see in a college football game. Just simply amazing. We'll be getting into it. Keenan, just take us through just what were your emotions? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. Wow. It's interesting. A little shout out here. I mentioned it already. I was sitting outside today for the game, and it's just even being around that atmosphere, even listening to the Beaver fans, even the Duck fans that were there. It was crazy to go from where we were in the third quarter, to how the fourth quarter kind of carried itself out. Yeah. I mean, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure, but we heard time and time again in the press conference, the mood was kind of down. You're down that many points, 21 I believe it was at most, and it's hard to come back, and then boom, it's just play after play after play, and it's an incredible atmosphere, and you wouldn't even know that half the stadium isn't built because it was insanely loud.
Well, Keenan, as they say, let's start with the vegetables, right? Let's get through the stuff that's maybe not so great, and to get to the incredible comeback, which we will, we got to start with perhaps the moment in the first half, Keenan, that nearly changed everything. Oregon State got, Jonathan Smith didn't exactly, dive into it in his press conference, not trying to get fined or nothing, but let me tell you, Keenan, there was nobody that was happy with that spot, whether it's, here at Reser Stadium on TV, that particular moment, Oregon State had the opportunity to take the lead. It ended up swinging. Oregon ended up taking the lead into the halftime break, and then Oregon came out and, built up a lead in the third quarter as well. How big was that moment? And have you ever seen a single play take the life out of a team as much as or single plays, I should say, those two spots?
Not like that. No, I don't think so. Or at least, it was huge because not only did they go for it, on fourth down, but then they didn't. They were short. Then Jonathan Smith challenges it, and then it's, it was confirmed, I believe. It wasn't even, it didn't stand. It was confirmed. So very odd. But yeah, it was a huge momentum swing because then the Ducks went down and scored, and then we saw how the Ducks how the Beavers started the second half with the interception. Right. So I think it did chip away quite a bit at just the overall, maybe not confidence, but momentum for sure. Right,
and you could just see whether it was, the crowd dying down a little bit, and Jonathan even talked about, he's like, thanks for the crowd for not, bailing on us in the third quarter kind of a thing. So just to recap, Oregon State, Keenan, was down 31-10 with 4 minutes and 46 seconds in the third quarter. Yeah. They then took the lead over Oregon 12 minutes in the fourth.
Yeah. And I think...
8 minutes in the fourth.
8 minutes in the fourth,
yeah.
And we'll talk about, too, I'm sure in a minute, if not now, just the special teams.
Yes.
I mean, it was huge. It honestly probably made the biggest difference and impact in this game. We heard, I want to say it was one of the linemen in the post-game conference talk about Kipper, that was a vocal point that the coaching staff stressed this week.
Yeah.
Jonathan didn't really seem to too much hint at that, but that, it made perfect sense because it's like if you have a great defense, great offense, then something like special teams is really going to matter. And it was huge just at this end goal line right where we're at, where the fumble happened.
Yep.
And, I think, too, we saw some of the inability of Bo Nix today as well. Both times he scrambled, didn't look real great.
Right.
Of course, last one, getting Grant stopped him short, fourth down was amazing. Basically, momentum-changing type of play as well. So special teams, it's a big impact as well.
Yeah, I mean, and as Keenan mentioned, right where we're standing is where Oregon State recovered the muff punt at the 1 yard line, and that kind of really started the avalanche, so to speak. But as Keenan mentioned earlier in the game, getting the block punt, Oregon definitely had some struggles punting this year. Jonathan Smith talked about that in the post game as well. But yeah, I mean, overall, Keenan, when you just look at how, I heard some people in the press box, say this game was drunk at certain points. And it seems like a very apropos description for what we saw here today. Yeah. Whether it was, halftime, you're still like, from the Oregon State side, you're like, okay, it's 14-10, but you're very much in it, to in the third quarter where it just looked kind of lifeless, to roaring back and having all this momentum. And Keenan, we can't even begin to summarize what we saw in the hallway between the press conference and here. I've never seen this program so excited to get a win. Keenan and I have, covered some, moderately big wins along the past, and I tell you, this definitely stands above. So again, Oregon State gets the win, 38-34. A couple big stat takeaways. Damian Martinez over 100 yards for a 6th straight game, inching closer to Steven Jackson and that company. But Jam Griffin also gives 75 yards, and then Deshaun Fenwick gives 53. Isaiah Newell with a couple big touchdowns as well. Not a whole lot to talk about from the quarterback perspective, so we'll just go ahead and flash past that. But Oregon State's run game, Keenan, carried them tonight, and it's interesting because we had talked about all year Oregon State not necessarily able to win a ton of games if they're one-dimensional, like we talked about after Washington a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Today we saw them be one-dimensional, and they still got it done. How?
Well, I think too, because it's where you get the ball, of course, as well, and how far you're behind and where you are at. Because had Oregon State, even when they were down 21, I think had they maybe, I guess, thrown the towel a little bit or abandoned the game plan, they may have thrown more. And I bet you we don't win this game if Gulbranson's having to throw a lot. But we were still able, with the special teams turnovers, able to do the Beaver type of ball. We were able to run the ball, own the ground. And like you said, Martinez a beast, but Newell throwing in those 2 touchdowns as well near the end was probably, secured the game for us, So, yeah, that was awesome to see. And I think, when you have a team that can continue to, even down 21, run the ball, stay true to their fundamentals, and that's a big part of the win too.
Well, and how excited is this, the potential for this, Keenan? Jonathan Smith talked about it a little bit in the post-game press conference. If Oregon State's obviously going bowling now, they finished 9-3, which, you and I have been covering this program for a long time, even when we were in school here, and I tell you, 9-3 seems pretty outlandish, but yet here they are in year 5 of Jonathan Smith. They're going to be going to a bowl game. We obviously got to wait a week to see what that's going to be like, but the opportunity for a 10-win campaign, Keenan, it just doesn't happen here in Corvallis very often. Huge opportunity.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think as we were walking actually to the post-game conference, I kind of just whispered to you, I'm like, several years ago under Gary, under Anderson, this team would have quit when they were down 21.
Without question.
And it was pretty cool not only, to see them not do that, but then to kind of hear that same sentiment from the players.
Right.
Even Jaden was talking about, we would have thrown in the towel and given up years ago, but that's not the mentality of this team. And I think that whether you want to say it's buying in, whether it's, I think Kipper made a great comment about people viewing each other not as teammates but as brothers.
Yeah.
I think there's just whatever it is, that camaraderie, whatever you want to call it, it's working. And they really, whether it's the offensive line, but as we talked about controlling the line of scrimmage, or whether it's the special teams or the key players on defense stepping in and making plays. I still think Jaden Brandt stopping Nick Short on that was amazing.
It was huge.
Just
one of the plays
a highlight moment for them. And it was just cool because not only did they not give up, but they battled and they stayed with it, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it really was one of the most special games you'll see, just for the roller coaster that it was. And to be honest, it seems a little like that's how it can be for Oregon State this year. You talk about the come from behind win at Fresno State. You talk about the miracle finish at Stanford. Oregon State doesn't quit in games, and even though it looked a little bleak there for a while, it's maybe safe to say that Oregon thought they'd put Oregon State away, and wasn't quite ready for the late kind of surge that they brought on. So kudos to Oregon State up and down the board. We can't nearly cover everything we want to cover in this video. But again, make sure to stay locked to BeaversEdge.com. We'll obviously have post-game coverage from tonight and a ton of stuff leading in. And then we'll be getting ready for the bowl game, obviously, as Beavers Edge will be traveling to wherever Oregon State's bowl game is, bringing you guys complete coverage. But again, Keenan, Oregon State defeats Oregon 38-34 tonight. Oregon came in as the number 9 team in the country per the playoff rankings. Beavers came in 21st. Safe to say Oregon State's going to jump up a little bit, eh?
I think so. Yeah, they're going to climb up a little bit in the polls, and it's cool too because Jonathan kind of hinted at, this win means a little bit more.
Showed a little emotion, didn't he?
And I think he talked about, as we're getting a little noise here, the jump from that 8-game to 9 games, and Jonathan talked about how this team had won close games already this season. They had already battled. They had already gotten really close. They'd won a couple close ones. USC was very close, and so to be able to finish, I think too, it was pretty special for them.
It was huge, and in more ways than one, this is going to be a win that goes down, in Oregon State history as a special one. You talked about the last time, 2020, there were no fans in here. The players even said post game. Tyjon Lindsey was saying, it was just radically different. Like, it was obviously great to beat them in 2020, but he said this was unreal. And again, for all the Oregon State fans that got to, rush the field and enjoy it, student section was packed. Reser Stadium was awesome today. It was just a fantastic environment for football. So again, keep it locked to BeaversEdge.com. Oregon State defeats Oregon 38-34. We'll be back, obviously, in the coming days and weeks as we prepare for Oregon State's bowl game, and stay tuned for what's going to be coming with that here in the next week or so. So again, for Keenan Puncocher, this is Brenden Slaughter signing off from Reser Stadium.